Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us for our Facebook Live today. We're going to be chatting with Anne of On the Road of Adventure, and we're going to be talking all things full timing, traveling with pets, cooking in your RV. So definitely join us. Pop some questions down below if you have any, and we'll get to them live. My name is Stacy. I'm with Wholesale Warranties. Anne, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and On the Road of Adventure?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Anne. My husband and I have traveled full time in our motorhome since April of 2019. And we travel with our dog Skipper, who was part of the reason that we started RVing. We really loved to travel, but we didn't want to leave him behind.
Yeah,
We had a sailboat before, and having a sailboat with a dog is not the easiest thing ever
I can
because
imagine.
it's hard, especially because he was a puppy and we had the boat and we were trying to train him. And it was very confusing for going on a potty pad in on the boat and then not using the carpet at home. So it was a good way for yeah was a way for us to still be able to live a nomadic life and to though be able to have Skipper with us and really live comfortably. Yeah, so we've been on the road since April of 2019. I was in the wine business for 25 years before we set out for this.
Okay.
um, Brian is still working very full time, and yeah, I'm doing On the Road of Adventure, sharing about our
Amazing.
lifestyle and letting people know more about the RV lifestyle and about how how you can enjoy life when you're still working. So
Yeah. Wonderful. We love
yeah,
that. I will always say that my favorite thing about RVing is the community, and that's in person and online. So, channels and socials like yours that show what it's like to actually be out there doing the full timing, giving tips and tricks. It's our favorite thing because that's how we all make the most of RVing, and I love that. So, do you have a home base? You guys are full time. Is there somewhere that you always come back to, or are you just traveling all the time?
no, we're really traveling all the time. So we launched from Michigan. That's our we'll always have a place in our heart. But we don't own a house there anymore, and we haven't.
Okay.
Last year, we bought an RV lot in a brand new development in Fredericksburg, Texas.
Okay.
And so we it's a new community that's just being developed. Half of it is RV lots and the other half is cabins.
Hmm.
And we have an RV spot, and we will eventually build a barn dominium on there and be using it as a winter home base for us.
Okay.
But we don't have any plans to stop traveling. We generally move every 2 to 4 weeks. And that we've been doing that for about 5.5 years now. Um, we're ready to take a break in the winter, but we're not ready
Yeah.
to stop traveling.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think like a cooling off period of a couple of months and be able to call somewhere home for a little while and then get back at it. Sometimes that can make doing the traveling part a little bit more fun when you have that time to kind of sit and breathe. And then you're excited to kind of get back out there again.
Yeah, I think it's important actually. I still use Michigan as my medical home base.
Mm-hmm.
But we have intentions to make Fredericksburg our medical home base. Unfortunately, we're getting older. That's the good news and the bad news, right? We're getting older.
Absolutely.
So there's stuff that you just need to do and need to take care of. And there's also stuff that needs maintenance on the rig, and
Yeah.
fitting that in when you're traveling and you want to be out exploring is challenging. So having a couple months in the winter to take care of all kinds of maintenance stuff, personal and on
Yeah.
our house, will be helpful for us.
Yeah, that's kind of that, I guess, less glamorous side of full timing is those of us who don't do that take for granted that our doctor is probably within a pretty good mile radius from our house and we can always go back to the same one. All of those things that are kind of so comfortable, you lose that when you full time. So that makes sense. Even a mechanic, having a mechanic that you just go to every winter to maintain the rig, but it's someone you trust and know is really nice.
Yes. Yes. Um,
So
so
I know you guys dove into full timing pretty quick, so these are probably all lessons that you learned along the way. Um, so tell us, it's 2019. You have the sailboat. You want to travel. How do you end up in the RV? What does that look like?
yeah, I mean, we really went from 0 to 60 in less than 5 months.
Wow.
Um, so we had started talking about an RV really before the end of our summer of 2018, but
Okay.
kind of we're looking at it like a 5-year plan, so my husband had a dream of living on the sailboat,
Hmm.
full time, and that was our 5-year plan, and that summer he called me out on it because he said the 5 years never gets shorter. So at some point, it has to become 4 years.
Yeah.
And I honestly, like, I bought into saying that it was my dream too, but he forced me to realize that it really wasn't my dream.
Yeah.
And so it opened up a conversation between us about living a nomadic lifestyle that would be authentic for me too. And
Right.
he brought up the idea of living in an RV, and it was like a light bulb went off for me. I'd honestly never thought about it. I told him on our first date, I don't camp. So, like, there were a lot of things about RV life that just didn't really make much sense at all.
Hmm.
And so it was yeah, it was a new thought for me. That was Labor Day weekend. I had a change in my job that really made me very sad in November. And I was not looking forward to continuing working with the company that I had been working for 15 years. That really opened up my idea that I could leave that job. Like, it had been a great job, but then it wasn't anymore.
Right.
Wasn't going to be. And so that was Thanksgiving weekend. We shopped in December. We had met with real estate agents to get our house staged, and we went on a cruise in March. Um, and our house got listed the day we left, and it sold within a day and a half,
Wow.
um, for more than our asking price.
Gotta love that. No complaints.
So we came back and we basically hired an estate sales person to come in and sell everything that we hadn't given to family or sold to friends or, whatever. So
Hmm.
anything that we weren't going to be taking with us, they sold for us. And whatever was left from that sale, we donated. And then we moved into the motorhome in April. So
Amazing.
we closed on it in February. We moved into it in April, and we were on the road really from that point on. Was
Wow.
fast. 5 months.
Yeah. 5 months is quick. And getting rid of a whole house worth of stuff has to be difficult. I'm sure it's like mentally challenging, or was it nice to kind of
No,
just get rid of everything? You loved it.
no, actually, I thought it would be really hard,
Yeah.
but it was one of the most freeing things that I've ever done.
Yeah.
And we put a lot, all of us, I think, and particularly Americans, put a lot of emphasis on things.
Hmm.
And getting rid of all that stuff was one of the most freeing things that I've ever done. So
Amazing.
we sold our sailboat to friends. We really don't have anything. We don't own anything that isn't in our motorhome
Yeah.
aside from one box of photo albums and stuff that's in my
Yeah.
niece's basement. And that's it. That's is what we have. So
That's
um
great.
actually
Sometimes,
buying that building a barn dominium's a little bit daunting that I have to have all that stuff again. Like,
yes,
I'm gonna have
for
more
sure.
stuff. Like,
Yeah. That's awesome.
Um,
That challenge that sounds like it would be so difficult to get rid of all of that, having that turn around and kind of be a positive is a great way to kick off the lifestyle. So you were in your RV, so April 2019. Where's the first place you went, first destination after you left?
well, we knew that we needed time to just sort of get used to things, so we just
Yeah.
went to Northern Michigan.
Okay.
We were from the Detroit area. We had a few weeks where we were just moving in on board. I was wrapping up the end of my 15 years at the job that I had been at, so I had to do some things to get that done. I made
Hmm.
about 8 gazillion trips to the Container Store trying to find the right organizational tools
Yeah.
for living in the RV, and then we went to Northern Michigan, and we really spent, I think, about 4 weeks in Northern Michigan. It was sort of our shakedown.
Yeah.
Let's see if anything breaks on the way. It was the first time we'd really driven the motorhome very far at all, so we didn't want to go too far. And we're never
Yeah.
moving. You've probably heard the 333 rule where
Yes.
people say, like, you don't drive more than 300 miles in a trip. You're in by 3, you stay at least 3 days kind of thing. Like, that's
Yeah.
the RV rules, right? So
Hmm.
we knew we didn't want to go too far. But that was our first trip. And then when we left Michigan is really when it felt like we were truly on our way.
Yeah.
And um, and we went across the northern part of the United States, like through Wisconsin into Minnesota, over to South Dakota, North Dakota, then down to South Dakota.
Awesome.
Um, so it was great. Yeah, really
Yeah.
amazing.
That sounds awesome. So when you guys were looking for an RV, how hard was it to pick a make and model? And do you love the rig that you ended up with?
We do love the rig that we ended up with. So travel in a 2015 Integra coach.
Okay.
Um, so it's a diesel pusher made by one of the top producers of luxury coaches out
Yeah.
there. It is a little bit older, so it was a little bit less expensive than buying new.
Hmm.
Um, my husband is like the master spreadsheet maker.
Okay.
And he had made a gigantic spreadsheet about like what the differences were between drivable versus towable,
Hmm.
class A versus class C versus class B. Like, we were never going to live in a class B, but
Yeah.
class A versus class C. So he had made like a huge spreadsheet. We already knew when we started looking that we wanted a class A.
Hmm.
And we did factory tours actually over the course of a long
Oh,
weekend. We did factory tours at Tiffin, Newmar, Fleetwood, and Integra, all of them
wow.
within like a 5-day span. So everything that we saw was very fresh,
Hmm.
very um, comparable, I think, like between each place. And we felt very confident. We thought that all of those manufacturers were making really good products. That's why we were interested in them to begin with.
Yeah.
And we were very impressed by the way that Integra handled their manufacturing and felt confident that an Integra coach would be a long term coach that we could live in
Yeah.
year round comfortably. Um, and then we actually were out looking at some used RVs, and um, we were on our way to the west side of Michigan to go look at a couple dealers. And my husband said, "There is an Integra coach for sale. We should stop and see that." And it wasn't on our list, but we were like, okay, well, let's go. And the rest is history. We went and looked at it. We were actually in the car on the way back, and the salesperson called and said, "So, just wanted check in and see what you thought." And that was the first time. That day was also the first time we ever drove a Class A
Yeah.
motorhome. So, um, and I think that's one of the things people are nervous about when they're buying,
Absolutely.
right? Like,
Yeah.
what's it gonna be like? And we had the most, generous, salesperson who did not sell us our Integra, but the most generous salesperson who, knew that it was our first time. He took us out into a parking lot. We both drove this
Awesome.
Class A for the first time. He really helped give us some pointers about how to drive. Then we both went outside of the parking lot. So you get to do a test drive, and both of
Yeah.
us actually did it with that person, and then when we went to go look at the Integra coach, we both test drove that too, and, like, just you could feel the way that they handle different, and
Yeah.
anyway, the salesperson called and said, he wanted to know what we were thinking, and we were said to him, like, "Yeah, well, we really like it, but it's definitely over our price."
Hmm.
And, what do you know? Lo and behold, he was willing to drop the price for us.
Well, there you
So
go.
it was pretty much a done deal then. He
Yeah.
dropped to the place where we kind of the high end of where we were looking, but um, he was able to lower the price for us, and we decided that that was it. We should do it.
Amazing. Fate led you
Yeah,
to that coach. It sounds like everything was pointing you towards that RV, and it's worked out well. You guys have been in it for 5 years, same coach?
same coach.
Yeah.
It's
Awesome.
a lot of people start small, and that's
Hmm.
terrific. It's a way to grow into
Yeah.
your the lifestyle, whether you're tent camping like we mentioned just before the call started,
Yeah.
and you start that way and you move up. um we had some pretty good ideas of what we wanted, and I feel like we bought our last coach first, and
That's awesome. But
so
you don't
we
hear
don't
that
have
very
plans
often.
actually to move out of it for the time being. It's dialed in pretty good. We're
Yeah.
making a few changes on the interior to make it a little bit, brighter,
Hmm.
lighter,
Yeah.
more, today's style, more my style, more personal.
Yeah.
Um, but you do that in a house too,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
You're
That's part of it.
always doing a little redecorating or a little I just got a new bedspread. It had been 5, our bedroom was done 5.5 years ago when we
Yeah.
moved in. It was time for a refresh. So,
Awesome.
um,
Yeah.
yeah, doing a little refreshing these days.
So I know that a big part of On the Road of Adventure is food. And I have to tell you, I feel like my no kitchen is big enough for how much of a mess I make when I'm cooking. How hard was it to kind of adjust to cooking and kind of the foodie life once you got in your RV?
Yeah, I had the boat experience,
That
which,
helps.
definitely was helpful in having a good idea of what I was going to be able to do or not do.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think that you can make anything in an RV kitchen that you cook in a house.
Hmm.
Um, the only thing that I don't or would not even consider right now making is I used to cure my own prosciutto.
Okay.
And I don't have a place
Yeah.
to cure prosciutto or any kind of cured meats or anything like that.
Yeah.
But everything else that I cooked in our sticks and bricks, I could or would cook here in our RV kitchen. Um,
Awesome.
yes, it does sometimes make a mess and you
Yeah.
are limited for space, but even professional kitchens, the professional chefs work in a very small space, and that's
Yeah.
because it's really efficient.
That makes
Um,
sense.
Now I don't have a big giant dish tank to go drop off all my dirty dishes for
Yeah.
someone to wash for me,
If
so
only.
that's kind of the biggest challenge is, like, where do you put that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
So I do adjust a lot of things that I want to cook so that I'm using less dishes,
That makes sense.
less
Yeah.
pans, trying to adapt and cook things that are maybe more one pot meals.
Hmm.
Um, but I love to cook, and I certainly was not willing to give up cooking when we moved into this. uh, and yeah, and wanted to be able to just enjoy cooking still. So
Yeah.
I feel like I still do that, and it's great. It's really
Awesome. It's
rewarding still
really,
to be able to cook. And
yeah. It's just that learning curve of kind of adjusting some maybe favorite meals into one pot meals and kind of making those changes as you go. But that can kind of be a fun challenge sometimes too, to make something new out of old recipes or old ideas.
it's also about changing some of, like, adapting new ways of cooking things, right? So the
Yeah.
very first meal that I cooked in the RV, honestly, was I forgot that I only had 2 burners.
Oh yeah, that's tricky.
So, in a house, you have 4 burners.
Yeah,
Like, it's no big deal to have 3 pots on the stove at one time. Well, when
totally.
you only have 2 burners, you have to keep that in mind. So changing some of the ways too that you cook things,
Yeah.
um, just makes you think kind of outside of the box a little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure you're not always cooking your meals. Is it as you move from place to place? How do you go about finding fun new restaurants to try and to kind of keep up that joy in eating out?
Yeah, I think part of that comes from having been in the wine business. I
That helps.
really love to go out, and Brian also really loves to go out and explore local culture through food and wine.
Yeah,
And I'm writing for RV Destinations magazine, so I do a little foodie tour in every issue. So I'm
awesome.
technically working by going out to these restaurants to check
Doesn't
them
get
out.
better.
Nope, doesn't really get better. Um, and so I have, of course, like most people, I'm using Google. But I also have some other things that I really love to check. One is James Beard Organization. The James Beard chefs and
Yeah,
restaurants are generally very well selected. And if you've even been nominated for an award for James Beard, you're likely a really, really high quality restaurant.
yeah.
Maybe not super expensive, but really good at what you're doing.
Hmm.
I love to look at the Food Network and Bon Appetit and Food and Wine Magazine for suggestions of places that they maybe are going to. Eater.com is a great resource if they
Yeah,
have um, a local chapter or local writer for that area. And honestly, I've started using Chat GPT a little bit
yeah. There you go.
for ideas of what the best restaurants are. So it's interesting to see, it's always interesting to look at all of those things and compare which places are at the top.
Yeah,
Um,
where there's some
and then
crossover.
when we get somewhere, we always sit at a bar of a good place and ask the bartender where they like to go on their nights off.
Yeah, another great idea. That really gives you the local perspective too, which is nice.
Absolutely. And you find out about places that maybe don't get written about
Hmm.
because they are more local favorites, but those places are often really, really good, not super expensive,
Yeah,
pretty chill places to go to. So,
yeah, that's great. So, two-part question. One, how many states have you guys hit on your journey?
oh, I should have counted
So
before we. I
you're not at
think
50 yet.
I think we're in state number 39 right
Okay.
now.
So you've made some good
So
progress.
we have, we're on a go slow program. And yes, we want to hit all 50 at some point. Well, at least the lower 48 by
Yeah,
our year. Um, so we do want to do that at some point, but we're not in a super big hurry to do that. We're
sure.
in Washington state right now, but
Okay.
we have basically done everything except for the Northeast,
Okay.
which is a lot of states in a small
Small area. Yeah.
area, right? And then we somehow missed Mississippi.
Oh, okay. So you got to hit the middle again.
And we don't count Ohio, even though we've driven through Ohio And we've actually been overnight in Ohio, but we've never gone there as a actual destination, and so we don't technically count that. So
Got it.
we have some room to work and to go to new places, but
Yeah. So of the
there's a
this
lot to
call it
see.
39, yeah. Of those 39, do you have a favorite food destination, a favorite state for cuisine?
Well, New Orleans is pretty magical when it comes to
Yeah,
food, and
that makes sense.
surprisingly, very RV friendly.
Oh, that's great to know.
Um, I've been surprised by how many big cities have RV opportunities that are
Hmm.
either in the city or close by. And we stayed at the French Quarter RV Resort in New Orleans. It's walking distance. It really is in the French Quarter, so it's walking
Wow.
distance to the French Quarter. I wouldn't walk there in the dark. Um,
Sure.
so we would walk to dinner from the RV. We'd walk to dinner, but then we would take an Uber back.
Yeah,
Um,
perfect.
and it was great. Like the location was perfect for going out to explore. And I mean, the food in New Orleans, if you haven't been, it's really
I haven't, but it's on
amazing.
the list purely for the food. That's like the
I
number one reason.
I need to go back actually because
Yeah,
we were just there for a couple of weeks and it's just not enough time.
yeah. Well, for everybody watching, drop your favorite place to RV for the food in the comments, and we'll look at those and see if everybody's settling on New Orleans. I feel like that's going to be a popular pick, but I'd love to see what other people are thinking. Um, so let's see. What else have we missed? So we love the Class A. So you're working through On the Road of Adventure. So how quick into your full-time adventure did you start kind of putting together the social media and gathering all of your tips and tricks?
I mean, so I think I started the page when we got to Northern Michigan, actually.
Okay.
So it was probably in June of 2019.
Okay.
Brian, I mentioned, is working full
Mm-hmm.
time. We're in our early 50s. So we started our journey when I was 45. I think when I was 45. Not very good with age and math.
Sorry,
Um,
just a
and
number.
Brian is just a little bit younger, so we're not in a position that we're retirement age by any
Got
means.
it.
He
Yeah.
still works a very full-time job in IT security, and
Okay.
he's chained basically to a desk Monday through Friday, normal, quote unquote,
Yeah.
normal business hours. Although these days it seems like he works about 60 hours a week.
Wow.
Um, so I needed something to do. That was a big piece of it, right?
Sure.
I wasn't, and I, one of the hardest things actually about giving up my career was actually just not making any money.
Yeah.
Was really hard to go from being a very contributing part to our lifestyle to not really contributing anything.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to be able to contribute to our lifestyle. And I also felt like there was an opportunity to contribute to the community
Right.
and to really help other people living in an RV or who just RV on the weekends to enjoy the lifestyle more. And so I
Yeah.
wanted to give back to the community. Before we bought our RV, we were watching, even just that weekend that we kind of made the decision to buy an RV, we watched, like, I don't even know how many seasons of Keep Your Daydream and
Yeah.
Less Junk, More Journey, and some of the big YouTube channels that were
Yeah.
showing what they were doing and how they were doing it. And so I wanted to help give back to that
Yeah.
and help kind of, and because I love cooking so much, I really wanted to demystify RV cooking
Yeah.
because I saw a lot of people who were RV cooking or who were thinking that they really couldn't cook or couldn't bake or couldn't use their microwave convection oven because they didn't know how.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to be able to just help them think beyond just tinfoil packets on a
Yeah.
grill, because I think,
Absolutely.
or just on the grill, kind of Dutch oven cooking, kind of like, there's so much that you can do. Um and like I said, I think you can cook anything in an RV. It's just a matter of how many pots and pans you want to wash, or
Yep.
how big of a mess you want to make, or yeah, so that was my
Yeah.
idea, and I appreciate that you have seen my content,
Yeah.
and that hopefully I'm helping some people to live and have and enjoy good meals in their RVs.
Absolutely. And I think that is an area of content that is so focused sometimes on just easy. Like, how can I, the most easy, simple way to cook so that I'm like eating, but I'm not really learning to use all of the tools in my RV, or learning to set up my kitchen in a way that's really making the most of the space. I think it focuses so much on ease that it kind of takes away from some of the joy of cooking. I love cooking and baking and all of those things. And so to give that up would be really difficult for me. And it's great to have something like On the Road of Adventure that gives you all of the options, where it is, still that joy of cooking and cooking exactly what you want, just the different learning curve of how to do it in an RV.
Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
thanks. That's really my goal, is just to make it simple
Yeah.
and tasty.
And tasty. That's the best part, right? So you mentioned, you're also traveling with a dog. I've seen some ears in the background. And you mentioned he had a little bit of a struggle with the sailboat. So how does he like the RV?
I think he loves it. I
Yeah.
honestly think that it is one of the best ways to travel with any animal. His house doesn't change.
Yeah.
So even though
Great
we
point.
change locations every 2 to 4 weeks, his home environment doesn't change.
Yeah.
So he still gets to have, his same food, his same bed, his same couch, his same everything.
Yeah.
So that really, dogs especially, I think, and I think most animals are very routine based.
Yes.
So his
Definitely.
routine only gets disrupted really on move days.
Yeah.
And he's always a little bit tired after moving day.
Yeah.
Um, because we know it stresses him out just to not have his routine. But
Right.
otherwise, it's a very routine life for him.
Yeah.
Um, and, in the meantime, when we're out exploring somewhere new, he gets all those new smells and
Yeah. Best of both
new,
worlds.
yeah, it's kind of everything. And we all know a tired puppy is a good puppy. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
going out to have all those new smells and all of those changes that are really good for him. There's a
Yeah.
couple other things that he's a Labradoodle, so he has to be groomed. So there's some
Mm.
challenges on my end of things for pre-planning groomers so that
Yeah.
he doesn't miss out on his grooming appointments. Um, and just having food. We have a mail service food
Okay.
delivery for him. So changing our address as needed to
Yeah.
be delivered to the park that we're at. So, but it's all manageable. It just
Sure.
takes a little bit of time to make sure that you get the address changed and
Yeah.
keep on top of, vet appointments, finding
Yeah.
new vets to go to, but it's all totally possible.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just those things again that you take it kind of for granted when you have a home base, is you always have the same vet and they're going to bug you to go do your appointment and do all of those things. So if you have to change it up, it just relies a little bit more on planning. I think a lot of RV is planning ahead, and kind of keeping on top of those little things that kind of go unnoticed in sticks and bricks life.
Yes, my husband likes to call me Anne with a plan.
Well,
So
there you go. You're a good one
I
to RV with.
I am definitely the planner in the relationship.
Perfect. Gotta be one of you, right? I don't think I'm the planner in mine. So shout out to my husband for being the one with the plan. Because if we were to ever RV, all of that would leave my brain immediately. Okay, so you said you're currently in Washington. How is Washington? What are the highlights of your current spot?
So we are in Walla Walla, Washington. I don't know how much you know about Washington State or Washington wine, but Walla Walla is the very southeast corner of Washington. We
Okay,
are, I think, 10 minutes from the Oregon border. And it's one of the top premier growing areas for wine grapes in the country.
awesome.
And so we are here really to do a lot of wine tasting and some food exploring. And I'm researching for my next RV Destinations magazine article. So going out to enjoy some of the local restaurants that are here. It's interesting because it's a pretty small town. You can be across from one side of town to the other side of town in like 10 minutes.
Awesome.
So it
Yeah.
has this little big town feel.
Yeah.
And there's about 150 wineries that are here. So
Wow. I did not
there
know that about Walla Walla, Washington.
it's just before harvest. So
Okay.
like when you go to the vineyards, you see the grapes hanging on
Yeah.
the vines. You can see
Beautiful.
that they're the right color. You know that harvest is like coming any day, really. So it's an exciting time of the year to be here, especially as someone who understands wine and loves wine. It's really, really fantastic. The food scene is pretty good, a little on the expensive side, I think.
Okay.
But it's Washington State. The minimum wage here is very high. And it's not surprising that that reflects in the cost
Good
of going
prices.
out for meals.
Yeah.
Um, so it's been a great we've got about 10 more days that we're here in Walla Walla, and I've got a list of things that I need to do. I always go through with like the last few days that we're anywhere, I go through this FOMO stage where
Yeah.
I start
What did you miss?
realizing that we're not going to get to see all 150 wineries.
Yeah.
Not that I thought we were going to, but
So,
I go through this little stage where I just feel like I really like there's so many other things that I need and want to do before I go. And so how am I going to fit as much of it in as possible? So I'm
yeah.
working on a schedule and with a plan, working on a schedule of how I can go to as many of them as I possibly can. And
Amazing.
because it's not, when you're in an area where they grow wine grapes, you're almost always guaranteed that they're growing more than just grapes. So
Uh-huh.
the produce scene in general here is really, really good. It's been an amazing farmer's market. We've eaten a lot of
Wonderful.
really fresh produce in our house. In fact, I'm going to go out later today to this little market that has fresh produce that
Wonderful.
I need to I need to re-up from my trip
Yeah.
to the farmer's market on Saturday so I can get some more good fresh produce, and it's really great. Fresh ingredients to work with and great restaurants to go to and lots of good wine to drink at home and in the restaurants around. So it's really good.
Perfect. Awesome. And then, so we're coming into fall travel plans. Are you guys heading back to Texas for this winter?
We will start making a slow trek south. So we're going, like I said, we only like to travel about less than 300 miles
Right.
um, in a trip, and we tend to move just every 2 to 4 weeks. And we prefer if we can just move one day and not spend a whole weekend moving.
Hmm.
So we have plans set up. We're going to be just south of Boise, and then we're going down into Utah. So we'll be by Salt Lake City, and then we're spending a Thanksgiving with friends in Zion National
Oh,
Park.
beautiful. Yeah.
And we'll actually be there near Zion for a month.
Wonderful. That's a good
Um,
place to stick around.
yeah, and we're meeting up with a couple that we have met our first year on the road. Like you
Awesome.
said, the RV community is pretty amazing. So
Yeah,
we met this couple our first year on the road, and we have met up with them a few times a year every year since then.
that's so
So we'll
great.
be traveling with them for about 6 weeks. And then the same for Thanksgiving, a couple that we're friends with from Michigan, they are actually flying in to spend a week in Zion with us. So we'll all be together
Wonderful.
for Thanksgiving, which will be fun.
Yeah.
And then we're from there, we're heading down to Las Vegas. So another great food city.
Yeah.
And we'll be there for the month of December. We figured if things were going to be super dark because the whole long nights and
Yeah.
short days of winter that we have ahead that I hate, at least we could be in a city full of lights and with lots of things to do.
It's a good spot to be. And you don't have to deal with quite as high temperatures in December. So that's a good time to be in
Correct.
Vegas.
Yes, we do try to travel based on seasons and temperatures. So, and then we'll start as after the first of the year, we'll start moving towards Fredericksburg, and we do plan to spend a couple months there. We're hoping that we have cement poured on our lot so that we
Yeah.
can actually sit and park and be on our lot for a couple of months. And I think we're talking about going back to Michigan next year for some part of the summer. It will be a couple years since we've been there to see friends and family. So
Yeah.
it will be a good opportunity to get back and reconnect with them. And Michigan is beautiful in the summertime, so it's a
Yeah.
good time to be there.
Awesome. So if I am watching this and I want to follow all of those adventures, see what you cook and eat and drink the whole way, how do I find On the Road of Adventure? What's the best place to find you?
Really on social media, either Instagram or Facebook. So Facebook, it's spelled out On the Road of Adventure, and Instagram, all one big gigantic word with no spacing and no um, punctuation or anything. So On the Road of
Awesome.
Adventure. I'm pretty consistent about posting on there. We do have a website. It's a little defunct right now. um, Blogging is a tough thing to do these days,
Yeah,
and often with not much reward involved.
sure.
So I go back and forth. Like, I'd like to have a place where people can easily go and find recipes,
Hmm.
but it's just a lot of work
It is.
to get the recipe actually posted and to have the right kind of content. And then, unless you're actually some special person who understands SEO, search engine optimization, and are willing to write to SEO,
Yeah.
it's um, it's challenging. And I don't
Yeah.
like to write like that. I I really believe, yeah, I try to be as authentic as I can be in my content, and writing to SEO is not very authentic.
It's
So,
tricky. Yeah. Well, we will
yeah,
definitely put the Facebook and Instagram links below,
great.
so it'll be easy to find. And then RV Destinations Magazine, so check out for your column there
Yeah.
for all the foodie and the wine stuff.
I've
And
written
thank
for
you
a
so
couple
much.
magazines, but I write consistently for them. So
Perfect. All right. Well, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for chatting with us. Thank you for sharing all of this great information through On the Road of Adventure. And to everybody watching, check out the Instagram, check out Anne's Facebook. And if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. We'll definitely ping Anne. I'm sure she'll be happy to answer them, even if you're watching the rewatch. And I think we'll go ahead and wrap up there.
that's great. Thanks, Stacy. Nice
Thank
chatting with
you.
you.
You too. Bye.
Bye.